One of the first questions I ask my personal finance coaching clients is, what do you own and why? When I ask them this question, I'm usually trying to establish what assets do they own, what liabilities do they have, and most importantly, are the assets that they have serving or contributing towards getting them to where they want to be in terms of their wealth building journey. Because if the assets you currently have are not aligned with your current financial goals or with your future financial goals, then it's possible that you should actually get rid of those assets. One of the other things that I've established as a personal finance coach is that a person can have a big paycheck but have a low net worth if they spend all the money they make at the end of the month. I've also interacted with a lot of people who have modest incomes but have built significant wealth for themselves because they are prudent savers and they are always investing in appreciating assets. Yes, so just because you earn a big paycheck doesn't necessarily translate to having a high net worth. At the end of the day, the trick here is not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you get to keep. And when I say keep, I mean save and invest at the end of every month. Now, let's talk about how do you actually calculate your net worth. Your assets minus your liabilities equals your net worth. And what is an asset? An asset is a resource that you own, something valuable, something that is financially useful or valuable. What is a liability? A liability is what you owe, such as debt, school fees arrears, mortgages, credit card balances. What is a positive net worth? A positive net worth is when your assets minus your liability is equals a positive number. For example, imagine a situation where you have $6,000 worth of assets, but at the same time you have $4,000 worth of liabilities. So if you subtract $6,000 worth of assets minus $4,000 worth of liabilities, that is $2,000 in net worth. So that is a positive net worth. So in this case, a positive net worth is when what you own is more than what you owe. You can also have a positive net worth when your assets minus your liabilities is equals to zero. Using the same example, you have $6,000 worth of assets minus $6,000 worth of liabilities. So 6,000 minus 6,000 is equals to zero. So what you own is equals to what you owe. That's also a positive net worth. What is a negative net worth? A negative net worth is where your assets minus your liabilities is equals to a negative number. So for example, if you have $4,000 worth of liabilities minus $6,000 worth of assets, that is equals to $2,000, negative $2,000. So that's a negative net worth. What you owe is more than what you own. So it's that simple. So the next time somebody asks you what is your net worth, you know what they're asking you. And this also means that you should be deliberate about sitting down and calculating your net worth, establishing how many assets am I carrying. And assets, let me give you examples of assets. Assets can be cash you have in your current account or savings account. It can be a bond that you invested in. It can be real estate assets. That means rentals, a plot of land, money you've invested in REITs. All these things are examples of assets. There are many more examples of assets. And also let me give you examples of liabilities. So for example, liabilities is any debt that you're carrying. It can also be arrears. So some people have school fees arrears, rental arrears. It can also be a mortgage. Yes, that's a form of debt. And also a credit card balance. So if you've been swiping with your credit card, that is a liability that you have. So you should literally sit down and ask yourself, what do you own minus what you owe, and therefore you arrive at what is your net worth. Now, every time I sit down with people and have this conversation about net worth, and you sit down and I help my clients calculate their net worth, I've realized that this is usually a very anxiety-inducing exercise. And it was also an anxiety-inducing exercise to me too, back in 2018 when I started, when I calculated my net worth for the first time. It's usually a very anxiety-inducing exercise, and also to some people, it's a very embarrassing exercise. In fact, just the other day, I was helping a client calculate their net worth, and one of the things she told me is that, Agatha, I feel naked. Yes, because that is when the rubber hits the road, right? And so that's when you get to realize, I have been in this career, or have been working, or have been in productive employment for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years. But right now, when I look at where did those paychecks go, I probably have very little. I probably have very little, or I have nothing to show for it. So that's another thing that people tell me. When we are calculating the net worth, they will tell me they feel that they've been working for 10 years, for 5 years, or they have nothing to show for it. And that's how this exercise becomes anxiety inducing, or embarrassing. The other thing that makes it an anxiety-inducing exercise is when people realize that their net worth is zero, or their net worth is negative after they've been working for so many years. Another reason that it can be an anxiety-reducing exercise is when you have this idea that you should have been worth X by 30, or you should have been worth X by 35, or you should have been worth X by 45. That's also another very slippery age, when I help people calculate their net worth at that age, and then they realize, oops, I'm in my 40s, but I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve. I'm not carrying enough net worth. So yes, and then the other problem when it comes to this conversation about net worth is that, unfortunately, we live in a world where our self-worth is equated to our net worth, right? As part of the wealth tribe, I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't. You are a valuable human being, irrespective of how much you own, or irrespective of how much you owe. And that is why we are having this conversation today, because after all these years of my experiences with helping people calculate your net worth, and I updating my net worth Excel sheet every month, I've realized that if you're deliberate enough, or if you have the right financial literacy, then it's possible for you to grow your net worth at the end of every month. For example, a simple trick that you can do when you sit down and realize that, oops, my net worth is in the negative, or my net worth is zero, the first thing you can do is start paying off your debt. Because when you start paying off your debt, then you reduce your liabilities, and that obviously means that your net worth will increase. Why is calculating your net worth is important? Knowing your net worth is like giving yourself a financial report card. So remember, when we were younger, right, or if you still are a student in school, one of the best ways to know how you're performing in school is grade system, right? You got an A in math, you got a B in English. So it's the same way. So unfortunately, as an adult, how you manage your money is a very important aspect of how well you're doing, of how much secure you're going to be. So calculating your net worth is actually like being given your financial report card. And so knowing your net worth gives you a sense of your financial health. And like I said, if you calculate your net worth, if you get this report card and you realize that you have more assets, or you're carrying more assets than your liabilities, then you can definitely go ahead and pat yourself in the back and tell yourself, I am doing well financially. Because probably if your assets are higher than your liabilities, you're probably doing well financially. But in case you sit down and realize that your liabilities are more than your assets, it's okay. Then the question that you should ask yourself is, where do I go from here? And as I said, one of the simplest ways, or one of the fastest ways to start increasing your liability is by reducing your debt. So come up with a plan about how to get yourself out of the debt that you're carrying. And I've written many articles about how to get yourself out of debt, and I'll link them in the description. Reason number 2 why knowing your net worth is important is like it's a measure of your financial wellness. Like I said in the beginning, your net worth, most of the time we've established that your net worth is not about how much money you earn, it's about how much money you get to keep. And when I say keep, I mean how much money you get to invest. So yes, it is a measure of your financial wellness. Instead of getting stuck comparing yourself with other people based on their cars, iPhones, latest gadgets, where they live, how they dress, etc., always remember that those flashy possessions are not a true reflection of their financial wellness. Unless you know someone's net worth, you don't know how well they are doing financially. Calculating your net worth will help you ensure you are on track with your financial goals. Reason number 3 as to why knowing your net worth is important, it's because financial institutions actually ask for this data. So if you walk into a financial institution, may it be a SACCO, a bank, or any other institution, and you want to get a loan, they may ask for documents proving what your net worth is. This is important because your net worth is a reflection on whether you'd be able to pay back a loan if you defaulted. Yes, so what would happen if you got a loan and you defaulted? Then they would simply come and liquidate some of your assets. Maybe sell your house, sell your piece of land, or maybe if you have a bond, for example, wait it out until that bond matures, and they'll take that money in order to recover their money. So yes, that's why it's important to consistently build your net worth, because again, it gives you access to loans or credit if, for example, you want to start a business and build your life through your business. Another reason number 4, your net worth may be used when you're signing prenuptial agreements. For example, I have a client who has this, I have a financial coaching client who has this agreement with their husband that any assets that each of them acquired before they got married belongs to each of them separately. But any assets that they acquired within the context of that marriage, or any asset they acquired when they were married, then those assets belong to both of them. So, and this is a prenuptial agreement that they have written, and so what would happen is that if they divorced or if they went their separate ways, none of them would contest for the assets that each of them acquired before they were married. And so that's why I always tell people, when you meet someone, right, and you're interested in getting married to them, or you're interested in building a life together, or you're interested in making them your life partner, please, one of the key questions you should ask is, what is your net worth? Literally, before you get married to someone, or before you settle down with someone, you should know their net worth. Because I have met enough people out here who they married someone, or they got into a partnership with someone simply because they saw that they're driving a Mercedes Benz, or simply because the way these people look like, the way they're dressed, they look like they have money. They have all these external things that make us think that somebody has money. No, like I said earlier, the car you're driving, the iPhone that you have, the good clothes that you have is not a true reflection of how well you're doing financially. So before you settle down with that guy, before you settle down with that lady, please sit down, have a money date, and establish what is their net worth. Because one of the other things I've observed is that you'll get married to someone, and because you didn't know the liabilities that you're carrying, then it is highly likely then those liabilities become your liabilities. So imagine a situation where you've worked so hard to pay off your student loan, you've worked so hard to pay back your circle loans or any other, or your mortgage, you're very disciplined in paying your mortgage at the end of the month, and then you get married to someone, or you get into a partnership with someone, and you realize this person has so many loans, some of them that they do not even remember, and now those loans are part of your Excel sheet. Do you want that? If you don't, make sure that you have the right conversations before you settle down with someone. Another reason why knowing your net worth is important is because you're able to know if you're on track with your financial goals. How much are you worth right now? How much do you want to be worth at the end of the year? How much do you want to be worth in 10 years time? How much do you want to be worth in 5 years time? If you know how much you're worth now, right, it is a good starting point, because that will tell you how fast you're moving towards your financial goals, or how slowly you're moving towards your financial goals. Knowing your net worth is also an important aspect in retirement planning. How much are you worth now? How much will you need when you're retired? Because that's a very important question. How much will you need to have saved and invested by the time you're retired in order to have a good lifestyle? And then the other question you should ask yourself, how will you fund that retirement, right? So if you sit down now and establish that I am worth 10 million, right? And by the time I want to retire, I want to be worth 70 million. Then you can work backwards and establish how much money are you supposed to save and invest per year. Work backwards. How much money are you supposed to save and invest per year? And then how much money are you supposed to save and invest at the end of every month? And then go towards hitting that goal. But if you do not know, if you're one of those people who is very casual, right, about your retirement plan, very casual about how you're going to make, how you're going to live when you're 75, then this is the time. Another reminder is that I know for sure that even if you're employed and your employer gives you pension, that pension from your employer is not enough. That pension from your employer is not enough in order for you to live well when you're old, when you're 80, when you're 90. Also, if you live in a country, for example, in Kenya, where we have NHIF, where a bit of money is deducted from your paycheck to go towards, NSSF, right? A bit of money is deducted to go towards NSSF, the retirement scheme. That money, again, is not enough. Even NSSF plus the money that you have as a private pension from your employer, still that money is not enough. This is a reminder that you need to be saving more towards your retirement, and one of the best ways to start is calculating what is your current net worth. Let's now talk about how to calculate your net worth. Number one, set a calendar reminder. At the end of every month, I have this calendar reminder that asks me, Agatha, what is your net worth? So every time I receive this calendar reminder, I have to remember to sit down and establish how am I doing financially. And so using Google Calendar or any other forms of calendars that can send you a reminder is one of the best ways to make life easier by solidifying your financial habits. And one of the financial habits that will make you wealthy is by sitting down at the end of every month and calculating how much your net worth is by updating, right? So if last month you were worth 3 million, right? So but you within the month you saved 100,000, within the month you saved 150,000. At the end of every month you should sit down and update your net worth, because now you're worth more. Update your spreadsheet at the end of every month. So here is an example of a simple asset spreadsheet. For example, let's say you have a bond, you have a piece of land, you have savings in a SACCO, you have an emergency fund saved in a money market fund, you have debtors. So yes, if you have people out there, if there are people out there who owe you money, that should be included in your asset spreadsheet. You know, you have shares, you have money invested in a REIT. All these things should come under your asset spreadsheet. Another question I get asked a lot is, how should I value my house or piece of land? To value your house or piece of land, you actually need a property valuer. Let's say you bought that house 5 years ago, or you bought that piece of land 5 years ago. You need a property valuer who will come and establish the value of that property. But right now, in order for you to make progress in your net worth Excel sheet, you can as well use the value of how much money you bought that piece of land, of how much you bought that house. You can also Google, right, or consult people on what is the current value of houses or pieces of land around the area where you bought that piece of land, and then use that as a value on your spreadsheet before you get a property valuer to do that for you. And if you're in need of a property valuer, just leave it in the comment section. Leave a comment in the comment section and I'll hook you up with one. Something else I always get asked: should I add my TV, my premium furniture, my fridge, my household equipment, my gold, in my spreadsheet? And by gold I mean things that jewelry that you wear. Should you add it in your net worth spreadsheet? I, as Agatha, I do not add those things, fridge, couch, and all those things in my net worth spreadsheet, because for me, I think of those things that as things I need to live my day-to-day life. I do not count them as part of my assets, or rather, I do not include them on my spreadsheet. You can do the same, right? You can choose to ignore them, right, in your spreadsheet. Or another trick you can do is establish a floor value. This, I mean, look at your couch, or look at your fridge, or look at your TV and ask yourself, is this TV worth more than 100,000, right? If it is more than that, then you can decide that it is going to go to your spreadsheet. If it was worth lower than that, then you decide I'm going to ignore it. So just establish a floor value. And what I've said, 100,000 is just an example. You can establish your own floor value. If something is worth more than 20,000, you can add it. If it's something worth more than 30,000, you can add it. So just establish your own floor value and decide, these are the things that I'm going to add and these are the things that I'm not going to add. Now, here is an example of how a liability spreadsheet should look like. So as you can see, some of the things that you should add in this liability is your student loan. This is a reminder for those of you who've been ignoring your HELB loan for years. Please add it, because at the end of the day, you still have to pay back that loan. It can be a mortgage that you have. It can be, school fees arrears, rental arrears, SACCO loan, a loan that you took from a bank. All those things should go into your liability spreadsheet. And then, like I said, your net worth is your assets, the value of your assets minus the value of your liabilities. Subtract the two and arrive at how much are you actually worth. Another way to track your net worth is having specific financial goals. Listen, saying I want to be rich or fantasizing about how wealthy you're going to be in a few years' time, even if I also do it, is not a true financial goal, is not a specific financial goal. So saying I want to be rich or fantasizing about how rich you're going to be in future is not a specific financial goal. I have to repeat, because every time I ask people what is your net worth, most people have this conversation about, I know I'm going to be rich. How do you know you're going to be rich if you're not actually measuring, or if you're not tracking how fast you're moving towards your goals? So a specific financial goal, for example, is deciding that by the end of this year, right? And we have, how many is it? 5 months to go. Is deciding at the end of this year, I want to be worth 10 million. So for example, if you're currently worth 8 million and at the end of the year you want to be worth 10 million, that is a specific enough financial goal. And then you push it further and ask yourself, how much money am I going to save and invest at the end of every month in order for me to get myself to that 10 million goal? That is a specific financial goal, not fantasies, not just saying that you're going to be rich. So yes, how much, and this is now a good time for me to ask you, how much do you want to be worth at the end of this year? How much do you want to be worth at the end of 10 years? Now, let's go to key tips and lessons on how to grow your net worth. This is a very important conversation because, as I said at the beginning, this is usually a very anxiety-inducing and sometimes embarrassing exercise, and therefore it's important for me to share key tips and lessons on how to actually grow your net worth. Key tip number 1: do not worry if your net worth is 0 or negative, especially if you're still in your 20s, if you're still in your 30s, even if you're still in your 40s, because there's something very important that I learned from one of my favorite personal finance books, and it's called The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This guy says that there are two levels of our wealth building journey, right? Or there are two stages in our wealth building journey. The first stage is the wealth accumulation stage, and the second stage is the wealth preservation stage. So if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, even in your 40s, even some people who are in their 50s, if you plan to retire, for example, on your 70, you're still in your wealth accumulation stage. So it's okay if you're currently worth 0 or if you're currently worth negative, because what you need to do, because you're still in your wealth accumulation stage, is focus on learning, focus on investing, focus on living below your means, focus on getting out of debt. And as I said, I will link all the guides on how to get out of debt. Focus on upgrading your skills, focus on starting a business and actually building it, because these are the things that are actually going to help you move from the 0 or negative net worth to where you actually want to be. You're not in your wealth preservation stage yet, right? You're not, basically what I'm saying, you're not yet in the age where you should be judging yourself. And in fact, I do not believe anybody should judge themselves based on their current financial status, because there are many things that contribute to where we are financially, including systematic issues. Another very important lesson I've learned is that for a lot of us, when we are in our wealth accumulation stage, as much as we might want to work towards building our net worth, we might still be in situations that are leading us to more debt. For example, if you're establishing your business and therefore you're getting debt in order to grow it or in order to start it, and also if you want to go back to school, right? If you want to go back to school for your PhD, for your master's, even your degree, or even any course, you might incur debt. You might still be incurring debt at this stage. So, and that's why I'm saying it's okay. At the end of the day, your business will eventually pay off. It will take time, but ideally it will eventually pay off. The course that you're taking, the degree that you're taking, the PhD that you're signing up for, at the end of the day, in several years' time, it is actually going to pay off. So this is all to tell you that it's okay if your net worth is currently negative or if your net worth is currently 0. At the end of the day, the most important question is, what am I doing in order for me to make sure that in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, I'm going to be in a better position financially? Tip number 2 on key tips on how to build your net worth is calculate an attitude of I deserve. And so one of my favorite personal finance podcast is this Mastercard Foundation podcast called Fortune Favors the Bold. Sometime back, yeah, that name is so nice, Fortune Favors the Bold. So sometime back, one of the hosts of this show one of the hosts of this podcast was one of my favorite authors called C.Ford. And because she hosts many guests in this podcast, one time I was listening to this podcast, and this is what one of the guests said. Entitlement isn't always bad when it's in the service of love of self as opposed to the degradation of others. Have a feeling of deservedness as opposed to I'm lucky enough to get a shot or I need to prove myself to this committee. Some people are born in a default of I deserve while others are not. Even if you don't have the financial resources, feel that you deserve. It makes you strong and grounded to go out and get. Be shameless in your ability to express desire. Be shameless in your ability to express desire. This guest, what he said really spoke to me, because I used to be one of those people, I used to be one of those people who used to walk around thinking I need to prove myself to this committee, or, right, I need to prove myself to this committee, or I do not deserve to be here, right, and I need to prove myself in order for me to be here. And I moved away from that kind of mentality by going to therapy, which I always recommend. Go to therapy, right? And of course, I do realize that therapy is not accessible to everyone because of how expensive it is. But I always say, if you can afford to go to therapy in order for you to get rid of your scarcity mentality or any mentality that is holding you back towards feeling that you deserve, right, and towards not always feeling that you need to prove yourself to certain people in order for you to feel that you need to exist, then please go to therapy. Point number 3, reduce your liabilities. As I said, your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. And one of the things that you should do is have a budget, because budgets are liberating. Because having a budget is simply, first of all, let me say that anytime I talk to people about having a budget, most people default to this feeling that, a budget is going to imprison me, a budget is going to make me not travel the world, a budget is going to make me not enjoy life or give myself the soft life that I actually deserve. No, a budget is actually a liberating thing to have in your financial plan, because a budget is simply having the ability to tell your money where to go. Right? So when you have a budget, it means that you should always have, if you have debt, right, part of your budget should be a percentage of your income goes towards paying off your debt. And so if a part of your income is going towards paying off your debt, then you're increasing your net worth. So yes, get a budget. And if you're in need of a customizable budget tracker, I'll leave a link in the description box, because I have the WealthTribe budget tracker, which is customizable. It will help you understand how much money you should be putting towards debt, how much money you should be putting towards your expenses, and most importantly, it will help you calculate your savings and investment rate, which I'll talk about in a few. And then the other thing, in order for you to build your net worth, is increase your ability to earn more. One of the questions I ask myself at the end of every month when I'm reviewing my expenses, or when I'm reviewing where my money went within the month, is I always ask myself, how are you going to increase your income in the next 6 months? Remember, I have asked myself in the next 6 months, because I like giving myself the gift of time. I don't want to rush into things. And so in 6 months time, 6 months is enough for you to come up with an idea, to test the idea and actually make money from the idea that you come up with. For example, a practical thing I did is at the beginning of the year 2022, I asked myself, how can I increase my income in the next 6 months? And one of the answers to this question was start a YouTube channel. And that is exactly what I did. By the time the year 2022 was ending, I was already making, actually in 6 months time, I had gotten to 1,000 subscribers, and in like 8 months time, I had gotten to a point where I'm making money from AdSense through YouTube. So you see, give yourself the gift of time. Always ask yourself, how can you increase your income in the next 6 months? Because by increasing your ability to earn, then you can increase your net worth, because you have more money that is going towards your savings and investments. Other ways that you can increase your income is starting a side hustle. Another way is upgrading your skills, because when you have better skills or more skills, then you can increase your ability to earn. You can negotiate a raise. Anytime I talk to people about increasing their ability to earn, most people default to thinking about, how can I get a second job? How can I get a third job? How can I create a side hustle? That is not always necessary. Sometimes the most important thing you need to do is actually negotiate a raise in your current at your current job. And if you're looking for ways, right, if you're wondering, wondering, how can I actually approach my employer? What should I tell my employer when I approach them in order for them or for me to negotiate a raise? I will leave a workbook in my description box that actually talks about how to negotiate or how to build your negotiation skills. You can take up a new course. All these examples are ways to show you that yes, you should always be working towards increasing your ability to earn. The other thing is save and invest at the end of every month. Remember, as I said in the beginning, your net worth is dependent on how much money you actually get to keep at the end of every month, and keeping equals saving and investing. One other thing that you should know from your expenses or from your financials is what is your savings and investment rate. And what is that? Your savings and investment rate is, let's say you earn $1,000 and you put $200 towards saving and investing every month. $200 is 20%, right? It's 20% of $1,000. So in this case, this person is saving 20% of your income. So the question is here, what is your savings and investment rate? Because if you do the math and you realize your savings and investment rate is only 5%, only 10%, 2%, then your other goal should be to increase your savings and investment rate, because when you increase your savings and investment rate, then you automatically increase your net worth. And then when you save and invest at the end of the month, don't interrupt your savings and investment journey. Don't interrupt your compounding journey, because the other way that will skyrocket how fast you grow your net worth is when your money is working for you. And how do you get your money to work for you? You invest and leave the money to earn compounding interest. Don't interrupt your compounding unnecessarily, and so be consistent and be patient. And then always remember that at the end of the day, you're a business of one, right? So just like a business, like Safaricom or any other big company takes itself seriously by understanding what is their equity, that is what are the assets minus what are your liabilities. It's the same thing you should do when it comes to you as a person. You need to be very, very hands-on about your financial wellness. And I always joke with people or my friends and tell them, you should be so good with calculating your net worth, or you should be so good with your finances that if I randomly woke you up at midnight, right, and I woke you up and I'm like, what is your net worth? You should be able to say it. My net worth is X. That is one of the ways, of course I joke, but that is one of the ways you can tell how serious you are with tracking your expenses or tracking your net worth. Another key tip on how to grow your net worth is avoid big financial losses. As Warren Buffett says, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Tip number 8, talk to your partner about your net worth goals. I have interacted with enough people who are in situations where they're working so hard to grow their assets spreadsheet, right? So they're saving and investing every month. But unfortunately, they're in a partnership where the other person is not in control of their spending habits, and therefore this person is busy filling their liabilities column. And what happens if this happens over a 1-year period of time or 5-year period of time? Then what happens that you're going to have resentment towards your partner. And how do you get to a point where you have resentment towards your partner? It's because you don't talk to your partners about your net worth goals, or you do not sit down and have money dates with your partner where you talk about your financial goals, right? So here's an assignment. If you're in a partnership, right, if you're in a marriage, if you're in a situation where this person actually, you're dating, or you're in a situation where the person you're with actually affects your net worth goals, sit down and talk about your net worth goals. And one of the most popular questions when it comes to this conversation about building our net worth is, what is a good net worth, or what makes a good net worth? In order for you to establish what is a good net worth for yourself, you need to start by establishing what you want out of your own life. Because a good net worth is actually one that allows you to achieve your definition of financial freedom. And therefore, a good net worth then for most of us is one that gives us options out of life, and also one that gives us the flexibility to comfortably live or to comfortably pursue the experiences we want to pursue. And so therefore, a good net worth is actually one that allows you to experience the things that you want to experience and gives you the freedom to pursue those experiences. When you eventually get to a point where you get to enjoy tracking your net worth, it then becomes a very rewarding experience for 2 reasons. You can look back at your journey and appreciate how far you've come. So when you are in the habit of tracking your net worth, you will appreciate how far you've come when it comes to your net worth. And number two, it's actually very exciting to watch those numbers go up and down. Yes, because once in a while, your net worth will be affected by factors such as inflation, or if, for example, you took up a debt to start a business, to go to school. And so seeing those numbers every month going up, but mostly up, it will actually get you very excited. And I forgot to say, my name is Agatha from the Wealth Tribe, and this is where we learn how to build wealth together. If you're new here, welcome to the Wealth Tribe. Please hit like so that YouTube can distribute this video to more people. Subscribe and share this video with all of your friends, because you know that the Wealth Tribe is about building wealth together.